Let's go Lions! We have some exciting stories just for you. There's plenty to discuss, so stick around until the end to hear about a bizarre play the Lions made that could come back to bite them as the playoffs approach. But first, if you're a die-hard fan, be sure to hit that like button, and if you believe the Lions will win the NFC North, type "I believe in the Lions" in the comments below. Let's start with Jameson Williams, who has been on fire since returning from his 2-game suspension earlier this season. In just 3 games back, he's caught 12 passes for 241 yards and a touchdown. He's already surpassed his career high for receiving yards with 602 and has 4 touchdowns on the season. Talk about making the most of your opportunities. I just look at it as making the play when my number is called, Williams said, explaining his approach to his newfound success. He understands how rare chances are in an offense with so many weapons, but every time the ball comes his way, he makes it count. And his versatility doesn't just extend to receiving. Even in the run game, we have to block for our running backs because they block for us in the passing game, Williams added, showing his dedication to the team's overall success. The Lions' offense has been one of the best in the league this season, and Williams thinks this group is on par with some of the greatest offenses of all time, including the St. Louis Rams' greatest show on turf of the late 90s and early 2000s. A lot of explosive players on the field, just like they had. Really great offense. Complimentary defense. I think it's good. Really good, Williams said. He grew up in St. Louis, so you can tell that comparison resonates with him, and it's great to see him shine in a high-powered offense like this. Now, let's talk about the ongoing punt returner situation. With Khalif Raymond injured, many fans have speculated about whether Williams might step in. While he did briefly return a punt during a game, Williams clarified that there are other plans for the position. It's clear that he's focused on continuing to make an impact in the receiving game, and we'll likely see him stay in that role. In other news, we've got a bit of a more serious situation regarding Williams. It was recently reported that he will not face charges after a traffic stop in which weapons were found in his vehicle. Williams spoke about it for the first time, explaining that he's just grateful to move past it. "I'm blessed to be out of that situation and move forward," Williams said, adding that his focus is now entirely on the Lions' next game, a big one against the Bears. Head coach Dan Campbell also addressed the situation, revealing that he'd had a conversation with Williams before the news broke. Campbell believes the young wide receiver has learned from the experience and is focused on his growth moving forward. "You got to be mindful of where you're at, be on top of your details, get that all eyes are on you," Campbell said. It's good to see that Williams is putting it all behind him and continuing to grow both on and off the field. But hold on, there's one more story I've got to tell you about. The Lions made a shocking roster move that could come back to haunt them as the playoffs draw closer. In a surprising move, the Lions released edge rusher James Houston. While Houston hasn't been a full-time starter, he had a solid rookie season with 8 sacks, and depth at defensive end is always important, especially as injuries pile up. With Aiden Hutchinson still recovering from injury and no guarantee he'll return this season, cutting Houston at this point seems risky. Sure, the Lions have managed to stay afloat, even after some major injuries, but releasing a defensive player this late in the season doesn't exactly scream playoff readiness. The Lions have thrived with a next-man-up mentality this season, but what happens if they face another injury on the defensive line? Houston could end up thriving with another team, and Detroit could regret giving up too soon. As the Lions continue their playoff push, depth will be crucial, so we'll have to wait and see if this decision pays off or backfires. Okay, Lions fans, that's all I have for today. But now, I want to hear from you. What do you think of Jameson Williams' hot streak after his suspension? Will he continue to make an impact for us the rest of the season? And what about James Houston's surprising cut? Do you think it could hurt us down the stretch? Let us know in the comments below. Now for a little intrigue, shall we? Dan Campbell has been having a field day with the media lately when it comes to the Lions' punt return situation. As we know, Khalif Raymond is dealing with a foot injury and is unlikely to play on Thursday, which leaves the Lions needing to find someone else to replace him. Last week, Amon-Ra St. Brown stepped in after Raymond was injured, and while that was a reliable option, it raised some concerns about potential injury risks, especially with St. Brown already dealing with a knee injury. But Campbell's comments on the situation got us all guessing. "I just look at it as making the play when my number is called," said Campbell, who explained that he trusted St. Brown at that point because he's, well, very reliable. And you know what? It worked. But with a full week to prepare, it looks like the Lions are planning to go in a different direction for the punt returner spot this time around. "I'm still trying to think about that," Campbell teased during his press conference. "Part of me says, use Saint again, because he is the most reliable. Then, with a smirk and a playful tone, Campbell added, "So we may just do that. You know what? We're going to do that." Was he serious? Or was this just Campbell being the playful coach we've all come to love? It's hard to tell, but there's definitely some gamesmanship happening here, and it's leaving Lions fans like you and me wondering what's really going to happen come game time. If the Lions don't go with St. Brown on Thursday, though, there are other options. Maurice Alexander, who's been on the practice squad, has plenty of return experience, including 6 kickoffs for Detroit in 2022 and 25 punt returns during his college days at Florida International. There's also the possibility of seeing Jameson Williams, Tom Kennedy, or even Craig Reynolds back there, but one name you really should keep an eye on is Donovan Peoples-Jones. He has the most NFL punt return reps on the team, with 61 to his name. Whatever route the Lions take, we know they're going to find someone who can get the job done. Now, while we're on the topic of the Thanksgiving Day showdown with the Bears, the Lions are dealing with a number of key injuries that could impact the game. Khalif Raymond, Taylor Decker, and Carlton Davis all missed practice, and Campbell isn't feeling too confident about their chances of playing this Thursday. Raymond, in particular, is dealing with a foot injury that could potentially be worse than originally thought, but the Lions are still waiting for a second opinion. Fingers crossed that the news isn't as bad as it seems. Decker's situation is another one to keep an eye on. He was optimistic after the Colts game, but with the short week, it's looking less likely that he'll be ready to go. And as for Carlton Davis, his thumb and knee issues are making it tough to predict whether he'll be available, though Campbell's comments suggest he might miss the game as well. On a positive note, there's some good news on the injury front. David Montgomery, who sat out last week, is feeling better and should be good to go against his former team, the Bears. Campbell even joked that he wouldn't be able to stop Montgomery from playing, considering how badly he wanted to get back in the game last week. St. Brown, who is also dealing with a knee issue, is expected to play as well, though the Lions are being cautious with his workload during practice. So, it looks like we're going to see some key players on the field for the Lions on Thursday, but it's certainly going to be a game-time decision for a few of them. But that's not all, Lions fans. We've got a pretty surprising roster move to talk about. The Lions have waived edge rusher James Houston, and while the timing of the move caught some people off guard, it's not exactly a huge shock when you consider his performance this season. Houston had an incredible rookie year, racking up 8 sacks and showing a ton of promise, but this year has been a different story. He struggled to replicate that success, with just 1 sack and 13 pressures on the season. With injuries to the defensive line, you'd think the Lions would want all the depth they can get, but it looks like they've decided to move on from Houston. Houston will likely get another shot with another team, but the Lions' decision to release him could be a tough one to swallow if they face more injuries on the defensive line down the stretch. It's a bit of a gamble, especially with the playoffs on the horizon, but it's clear the team felt it was time to make a change. So, Lions fans, what do you think about all of this? Who do you think should be the punt returner on Thursday? Do you agree with the Lions parting ways with James Houston, or do you think that decision could come back to haunt them later? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I love reading what you guys think. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you can stay up to date on all the latest news, game previews, and more. We've got a lot of exciting football ahead, and you won't want to miss a thing. As always, go Lions!